and stuff. Just wanted to show you this as well.
About me? I didn't even fight last night. Just Dana.
Do you have any updates about the eye of Tom Aspinall, and is there a rematch in the works?
Oh, Jesus, don't let me talk about Tom Aspinall's eye. Apparently he's going in for a second surgery, or just had it, and by surgery I mean injections. I have no idea. Get a quote from him. God forbid I say something about it. Go ahead.
Jeez.
How close did you think you were to
Here's your quote.
Catching strays, aren't I? Catching strays in my own living room on a Sunday morning.
The UFC just lost their most dangerous heavyweight. And the reason Tom Aspinall is demanding his release isn't what you think. This isn't about money. This isn't about ego. This is about a man whose vision is being stolen by the very sport that made him a champion. And what the organization is doing to him behind closed doors is absolutely disgusting.
The reports are out. The UFC asked Tom Aspinall to vacate the title until he was ready to go. And he said he'd be willing to vacate the title as long as they released him. Now, that opens the door so he can go ahead and box. This is a really weird situation. The heavyweight division is just a total shit show right now. And it's been a shit show since the John Jones coming in, not wanting to fight, the interim champion, which was Tom Aspinall at the time. And then fighting Stipe. No disrespect to Stipe, but it was just, John had something in mind, and the UFC didn't squash that. They allowed that fight to happen, and it just led into this thing where the heavyweight division's been on hold since the John Jones, what do we call it? Bottom line is, Jailton Almeida is gone. Okay, they just released him. Tom Aspinall, if he is gone, John Jones doesn't seem like he's coming back, especially not to the heavyweight division. We have a mess. We have a disaster on our hands. The heavyweight division and the 205-pound division, the light heavyweight division, both weight classes are the worst that they've ever been. And these used to be the pillars. This used to be what would carry the promotion. When the merger of Strikeforce and the UFC happened, the heavyweight did it ever been. And the light heavyweight division, honestly, the UFC was built off of the light heavyweight division. This is wild to me, man. The 135, 145, 155, and 170 right now are of MMA and definitely carrying the UFC. More to come.
Right, and I'm not defending Tom because I'm a friend of his, and I don't really even talk to Tom very much. We're not even friends like that. I was always an admirer of Tom's work, and I believed in his potential. A lot of people are talking shit because I get Cyril.
Let me paint you the real picture here. When Tom Aspinall steps into that octagon, everything you think you know about this calm, collected British gentleman completely vanishes. The man transforms into something primal, something terrifying. He's not just fighting his opponent, he's fighting to prove that the heavyweight division belongs to him. But here's what nobody's telling you. The biggest fight of his career isn't happening inside that cage. It's happening in boardrooms, in medical facilities, and in contract negotiations where his entire future is being decided without his input. And the people who are supposed to protect him, they're the ones destroying his career.
I think you're allowed to say, whoa, never mind the fight, I can't see. And then the crowd turned on him. And then this is where a lot of people are saying that he's milking it. Okay, after the fight, they showed footage at the hospital and getting looked at by the doctors, and everyone was like, oh, you're milking it. And then I'm going to go through some of the comments on Twitter in a minute. The same kind of thing there, right? And maybe he was, right? Maybe there was a little truth to that, because I understand it, by the way, because he wants to show the world, hold on a minute, I'm the victim here. I'm the guy that got poked in the eye. I'm not the person out there that's committing the fouls. I had two fingers.
Now let's talk about what's really driving Tom Aspinall, and forget everything you've heard about him chasing easy fights or bigger paychecks. What we're witnessing is a tidal wave of talent and intelligence that the UFC can't control. This man possesses combat IQ that most fighters spend their entire careers trying to develop, combined with knockout power that ends fights in seconds. He's not begging for anything. He's demanding what he's earned. But here's the brutal truth nobody wants to face. A real champion's greatest battle isn't against other fighters. It's against the system that profits from their suffering. The UFC knows exactly what they have in Tom Aspinall, and that's exactly why they're trying to keep him caged.
Run it back, and I was dying to, because the fight was a close fight. And yeah, Tom's nose was busted up, and Cyril Gane was looking really good. But as fans, Is that not what we want? Do we not want to see exciting fights? Do we not want to see back and forth competitive matchups?
You saw what happened when he stepped up on short notice against Pavlovich. No full training camp, no months of preparation, just pure instinct and skill. And what did he do? He snatched that interim title and made it look effortless. That's not the behavior of someone looking for an easy way out. That's a hunter who sees opportunity and strikes without hesitation. But here's where the story gets absolutely wild. The moment he proved he was championship material, the moment he showed the world he could carry the heavyweight division, that's when the real problems started. Because now the UFC had a problem. They had a champion who couldn't be controlled, who wouldn't play their games, who demanded respect instead of begging for scraps.
We want to see legendary matchups as fans. We want to see good matchmaking. We want to see two guys that are the best in the world going toe-to-toe and pushing each other to the limit. And that's what we saw, right? It was a competitive.
But here's the kicker. While fans are cheering for those epic battles, while we're demanding these warriors push themselves to the absolute limit, we're completely ignoring what that limit actually costs. For Tom Aspinall, that cost isn't just broken bones or torn muscles. It's his eyesight. His actual vision is being compromised by the damage he's taken in that cage. Let that sink in for a second. This man has given so much to this sport that it's literally stealing his ability to see. And what's the UFC's response? Keep fighting. Take more damage. We'll worry about your future after we've squeezed every last dollar out of your career.
What a lot of the public fan base has had to say. Now, granted, this is on Twitter, right? And we know Twitter is a bit of a cesspool of negativity and toxicity, right? I'm sure if we looked at the Instagram comments, it'd be a little more positive. But look at these guys. First of all, Grok, is this real? Come on, man. You really think the heavyweight champion of the world is out there? He's going to fake something like this? He's going to put some, like, I don't know, eye drops in his eyes and be playing a whole stunt? No, we all saw the eye pokes. We all saw the aftermath. We all saw the fallout. We all saw the appointments with the doctors. And now we're seeing 4 months later the fact that he's had surgery.
Here's what absolutely destroys me about this situation. You've got keyboard warriors and casual fans calling this man weak, saying he's faking injuries, claiming he's looking for attention. This isn't some Hollywood movie where injuries are fake and pain is choreographed. This is a man whose livelihood, whose entire future, whose ability to see his own children grow up is being threatened every single time he steps into that octagon. The disrespect is staggering. These people have never felt their skull rattle from a heavyweight punch, never experienced the terror of temporary blindness after taking a shot to the head, never had to wonder if this fight might be the one that leaves them permanently damaged.
That he didn't even do. If anything, people should be more pissed at Cyril Gane. And then underneath that, Tommy's milking this shit, but hey, it is what it is. He wanted out of the UFC and got his chance. Now he'll sue for a few mil, and that will be that. And we could go on all day, we could go through it, but you get the general consensus, you know. I mean, fake, they said, right, I don't know. Listen, at the end of the day, these guys are talking out their arse. What do you mean he wanted out? This man has worked his way up. The man became the interim heavyweight champion of the world by stepping up on short notice and taking out Sergey Pavlovich.
And get this, the medical reports don't lie. Tom Aspinall is dealing with vision problems that directly stem from the punishment he's absorbed in that cage. We're talking about damage to his optic nerve, compromised depth perception, issues that could affect him for the rest of his life. But somehow the narrative being pushed is that he's weak for acknowledging this reality, that he's a quitter for prioritizing his long-term health over short-term entertainment. It's absolutely insane. This man stepped up when the UFC needed him most, delivered one of the most impressive title wins in heavyweight history, and now he's being treated like he's disposable.
And that's what he's done to the majority of his opponents. And yeah, you know, he had a couple of things that week with the DC and saying he was going to boxing and all that type of stuff. But at the end of the day, the fight was looking like a really, really good one. Now, I was excited for the rematch, and there's still been no talk of a rematch. Because, of course, there hasn't. How can you have a rematch when one half of the matchup is still going through medical clearance, still trying to get his vision back? And in fact, if you read out the actual statement from the doctor, this was an Instagram post and this is what was written, but it was like written in third person. I think Tom shared it or something like that. It says, after his highly publicized eye poke.
Listen to this part carefully. When a fighter starts questioning whether the system actually values them as human beings, when they realize they're being used as content rather than respected as athletes, that's when everything changes. Tom Aspinall isn't trying to quit the UFC. He's trying to save his career from an organization that sees him as expendable. He's watching his division move forward without him while he sits on the shelf, dealing with injuries that the promotion wants him to ignore. And the most frustrating part? He knows he's the best heavyweight on the planet, but he's being held back by people who care more about their bottom line than his well-being.
We've been working closely with him on his recovery. Following his operation on both eyes, we continue the journey to get Tom's vision back to fighting fitness, right? Now, let's talk about that. What is fighting fitness? Well, I know this very well. The benchmark for having fighting fitness is 20.
Now here's where it gets even more messed up. The UFC keeps citing medical clearance numbers, vision test results, cold statistics that supposedly measure a fighter's readiness to compete. But those numbers don't tell the whole story. They don't capture the reality of what it's like to step into a cage when your vision isn't 100%, when you're seeing double after taking a hard shot, when you're fighting through problems that could become permanent if you're not careful. Tom Aspinall understands something that a lot of people don't. Sometimes the smartest thing a warrior can do is recognize when the risk outweighs the reward. That's not weakness, that's intelligence.
2200 vision, all you gotta get is the top letter, the big old massive one, and then the two relatively big ones underneath that. If you can read those three letters, you have 2200 vision. I know this because I cheated the eye test many times to go on and have my legendary career, where I did end up in the Hall of Fame and with a few belts and stuff like that, right? So I know what I'm talking about. So to get Tom's vision back to fighting fitness means he's got to have 2200.
But wait, it gets worse. While he's dealing with these vision issues, while he's trying to get proper medical treatment and recovery time, the heavyweight division keeps moving. Other fighters are getting opportunities, getting title shots, getting the recognition that should be his. And that's eating him alive. This isn't just about physical health anymore. It's about watching your career window close while you're stuck in bureaucratic hell, dealing with an organization that talks about fighter safety, but pushes damaged athletes back into competition before they're ready. The psychological toll of being a champion who can't defend his position is something most people can't even comprehend.
Talking about it online would say to me that the operation has been a success, so now it just is a matter of time before Tom to rest up, to heal from the surgery, and then come back and rematch Cyril Gane. But how long will that be? Because the one thing that you can't do, and I've said this in multiple other videos, you cannot rush this. When you rush back too soon, things can go wrong. When you operate on something, you weaken it. Anytime you go in there and drill or cut and slice and mess about with it, you weaken it. So you have to allow it a lot of time to restore, to heal 100%.
Here's the reality that nobody wants to discuss. Every single training session, every sparring round, every fight is potentially making his vision problems worse. Each time he gets hit in the head, each time he absorbs punishment, he's risking permanent damage to his eyesight. And for what? So the UFC can make money off his suffering, so fans can be entertained by watching him slowly lose his ability to see. This man has already given more than enough to this sport. He's proven he's elite, proven he's championship material, proven he belongs at the top of the division. But now he's being asked to risk his entire future for the entertainment of people who will forget about him the moment his career is over.
Ignore all the negative comments on Twitter and Instagram and all these dickheads online, because they don't know what they're talking about at the end of the day. You'll be back at some point. I look forward to it. I look forward to the rematch with Cyril Gane, and then you'll get used to all this shit again. Everyone coming out the woodwork and talking crap. Anyway, what do you guys think about everything that I just said? What do you think about Tom's situation? Do you think they're going to bring in an interim champion? Is it going to be Cyril Gane versus Alex Pereira, something like that? I really don't know. But what do you think? As I say, always say, let me know in the comment section and subscribe.
So there you have it. Tom Aspinall isn't trying to escape the UFC because he's weak or scared. He's demanding his release because he's smart enough to recognize that the system is designed to use him up and throw him away. His vision is being compromised, his career is being mismanaged, and his future is being decided by people who see him as nothing more than content. This isn't just about one fighter's contract dispute. This is about an organization that claims to care about athletes' safety while pushing damaged fighters back into competition. And honestly, if Tom Aspinall walks away from the UFC, it won't be their loss. It'll be ours. Because we're watching one of the most talented heavyweights in the world being destroyed by the very system that should be protecting him. So here's my question for you. Drop it in the comments. Do you think the UFC will let their most dangerous heavyweight walk away, or will they finally start treating him with the respect he's earned? If this breakdown opened your eyes to what's really happening behind the scenes, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell because this story is far from over. I'll see you in the next one.
To have when you're fighting the best people on the planet. So it's not that he was looking for a way out, it's that he got double poked in the eye. And now, as we say, here we are 4 months later, the man has had surgery. Not one, apparently he's had 2, right? And you can see the damage on the eyeballs, right? Anytime they mess with the eyes, I've had multiple eye surgeries, right? I lost my retina. You all know this story by now if you're new to the channel and you haven't seen this shit, right? Yeah, I lost an eyeball and I had a lot of...
But here's what's going to blow your mind about this entire situation. The UFC's response to Tom Aspinall's demands has been absolutely radio silent in public, but behind the scenes, they're in full panic mode. And I've got sources close to the organization telling me things that will completely change how you see this whole mess. Because while they're pretending this is just another contract negotiation, internally, they know they're about to lose the most marketable heavyweight they've had since the prime of their biggest stars. This isn't just about one fighter anymore. This is about the UFC's entire heavyweight strategy crumbling in real time. Think about this for a second. Tom Aspinall represents everything the UFC claims they want in a champion. He's articulate, he's got that British charm that opens up international markets, he's devastatingly effective in the cage, and he carries himself like a professional. But most importantly, he's young enough to be their heavyweight face for the next decade. The UFC has been desperately trying to find their next generation of superstars, and Tom Aspinall was supposed to be that guy. Now they're watching him slip through their fingers because they can't figure out how to balance making money off him today versus protecting their investment for tomorrow. Here's where the story takes an absolutely insane turn. My sources are telling me that behind closed doors, UFC executives are scrambling to figure out damage control. They know that if Tom Aspinall walks away and signs with another organization, it's not just losing one fighter. It's losing face on a global scale. Imagine the headlines when the UFC's interim heavyweight champion leaves because the organization wouldn't properly address his medical concerns. That's not just bad press. That's a public relations nightmare that could affect how other fighters view their own safety within the organization. And get this, the medical situation is apparently way more serious than what's been publicly disclosed. We're not just talking about temporary vision problems or minor complications from taking shots to the head. Sources close to Aspinall's medical team are suggesting that he's dealing with issues that could potentially end his career if not properly addressed. We're talking about the kind of damage that doesn't just affect his fighting ability, but could impact his quality of life for decades to come. And the UFC's position. They want him to fight through it, manage it, treat it as just another obstacle to overcome. But here's what's really eating at Tom Aspinall, and this is the part that should terrify every fighter in that organization. He's watching how they're handling his situation and realizing that when push comes to shove, fighter safety is just a marketing slogan. All those commercials about caring for their athletes, all those press conferences about medical protocols and safety measures, it all disappears the moment it conflicts with their bottom line. This man has given everything to reach the top of his division, and now he's being treated like he's expendable because he won't ignore potentially career-ending medical issues. Let me tell you something that's going to make you see this whole situation differently. The heavyweight division without Tom Aspinall is a completely different landscape. Take him out of the equation, and suddenly you've got a bunch of aging veterans and unproven prospects trying to carry the most important division in the sport. The UFC knows this. They understand that losing Aspinall doesn't just mean losing one talented fighter. It means losing their best hope for the future of heavyweight mixed martial arts. But their pride, their need to maintain control, is apparently more important than securing their long-term interests. Here's something absolutely wild that nobody's talking about. Other major fighting organizations are reportedly already reaching out to Tom Aspinall's representatives, not just to gauge his interest, but to offer him deals that would make the UFC's contract look like pocket change. We're talking about organizations that are willing to work around his medical concerns, provide him with world-class healthcare, and still pay him more money than he's making right now. So when people say he's being greedy or difficult, they have no idea what they're talking about. This man has options that most fighters could only dream of. But here's the psychological warfare aspect that's really messing with his head. The UFC is reportedly using his medical situation against him in negotiations. They're essentially saying that if his vision problems are as serious as he claims, then maybe he's not worth the money he's asking for. It's absolutely disgusting. They're using his honesty about his health, his transparency about the damage he's sustained serving their organization, as leverage to devalue him in contract talks. This is the kind of manipulative behavior that drives fighters away from the sport entirely. And here's what's going to shock you about the timeline of all this. Tom Aspinall's vision problems didn't just suddenly appear after his last fight. Sources are telling me that he's been dealing with these issues for months, possibly even longer. He's been fighting through compromised vision, delivering those spectacular performances while dealing with medical problems that would sideline most people. And instead of being celebrated for his toughness and dedication, he's being questioned and doubted because he finally decided to prioritize his long-term health. Now let's talk about what this means for every other fighter in the UFC roster. They're all watching how Tom Aspinall's is being treated, and it's sending a clear message about what happens when you put your health before the organization's immediate financial interests. Young fighters coming up through the ranks are seeing that even being an interim champion, even delivering spectacular performances, even being everything the UFC claims they want, doesn't protect you when you need medical support and understanding. Here's the part that's going to make you absolutely furious. While Tom Aspinall is dealing with potentially career-ending vision problems, while he's trying to get proper medical treatment and recovery time, the UFC is reportedly pressuring him to take fights that could make his condition significantly worse. We're not talking about minor risks here. We're talking about the possibility of permanent blindness if he takes the wrong kind of damage at the wrong time. And their response. The show must go on, the division needs to keep moving. There are pay-per-views to sell. But wait, there's more to this story that's going to blow your mind. The medical experts that Tom Aspinall has been consulting aren't just random doctors looking to make money off a famous fighter. These are specialists in combat sports medicine, people who understand exactly what kind of damage fighters absorb and how it affects them long-term. And their recommendations are apparently very clear. Extended rest, comprehensive treatment, and absolutely no competition until his vision issues are completely resolved. That's not the opinion of one doctor. That's the consensus of multiple medical professionals who specialize in exactly these kinds of injuries. Here's where the UFC's handling of this situation becomes absolutely inexcusable. They have access to the same medical reports, the same specialist opinions, the same information about the risks Tom Aspinall is facing. They know exactly what's at stake for his long-term health and quality of life. But instead of working with him to develop a treatment plan that protects their investment while prioritizing his well-being, they're treating him like he's being difficult for not wanting to risk permanent blindness for their entertainment schedule. And here's something that's going to make you question everything you think you know about fighter contracts and medical care. The UFC's insurance and medical protocols are supposedly designed to protect fighters from exactly the kind of situation Tom Aspinall is facing. But when a fighter actually needs that protection, when they actually need the organization to step up and prioritize their health, suddenly all those safety measures and medical protocols become obstacles and bureaucratic hurdles instead of support systems. Let me paint you a picture of what Tom Aspinall's daily reality looks like right now. He wakes up every morning not knowing if his vision is going to be clear, not knowing if the damage from his fighting career is getting worse, not knowing if he's going to be able to see properly for the rest of his life. And instead of having the support of the organization he's helped build, instead of having medical teams working around the clock to get him healthy, he's dealing with contract disputes and public relations battles while trying to save his eyesight. Here's the most disturbing part of this entire situation. The UFC's medical team has reportedly cleared him to fight multiple times, despite his ongoing vision problems. Think about what that means. Either their medical evaluations are completely inadequate for detecting the kind of damage he's dealing with, or they're clearing fighters to compete despite knowing they have potentially serious medical issues. Neither option is acceptable, and both possibilities should terrify every fighter in that organization. But here's what's really going to make you see this situation differently. Tom Aspinall isn't just fighting for himself anymore. He's fighting for every fighter who's ever been pressured to compete through injuries, every athlete who's ever been made to feel like their health concerns aren't legitimate, every warrior who's ever been treated like they're disposable by the system they've dedicated their lives to serving. His fight for medical respect and proper treatment is setting a precedent for how fighters should be treated when their health is on the line. Now here's the nuclear option that nobody's talking about, but everyone's thinking about. If Tom Aspinall walks away from the UFC and signs with another major organization, and if that organization provides him with the medical care and respect he's asking for, and if he comes back healthier and more dangerous than ever, it's going to make the UFC look absolutely terrible. Imagine the narrative when he's thriving somewhere else while they're struggling to find compelling heavyweight matchups without him.